Hey everyone, welcome to the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show, live on Rumble, where facts come first and where news is done right. And we begin with big breaking news surrounding the Trump-Russia hoax, as special counsel John Durham has reportedly completed his report into the origins of the Crossfire hurricane investigation that was used to spy on Donald Trump. And according to multiple reports, Durham concluded that the intelligence community never appeared to have possessed, quote, any actual evidence of collusion in their holdings at the commencement of the Crossfire hurricane investigation. Translation: the Steele dossier was a joke, and the FBI had no verified intelligence when it opened the sham investigation. Think about that. And we have much more coverage on this coming up. And today, the Biden administration's scheme to undermine America's sovereignty and security is more obvious than ever. And we have an all-star lineup to cover it all. Author and America First social media superstar David Harris Jr. will join us just ahead. And later, we'll hear from an important rising Republican superstar, Arizona Attorney General candidate Abe Hamadeh will be here with huge new details on his election integrity fight. And what went on in Arizona is even worse than we thought. You do not want to miss it. This affects the entire election and the country. But we lead off tonight with the invasion at our southern border. Because as Team Biden tries to spin their destructive border policy as some sort of victory, facts and reality tell a far different story. For example, a new report from Breitbart says that after the lifting of Title 42 border protections last week, at least 5 illegal migrants on the terror watch list were apprehended in a single border sector over the weekend. According to the report, the illegal migrants were referred to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force for further investigation, spotlighting truly the growing danger of open border policies. And that's not all. At a border crossing in California last week, an Afghan national on the terror watch list also attempted to cross the border, raising even more concerns about the growing terror threat caused by Biden's policies. Because remember, these are just the suspected terrorists at the border that we actually know about. Don't forget that under Biden, there have been over 1 million so-called illegal immigrant gotaways, meaning they evaded authorities, crossed the border, and they are nowhere to be found. They're in your neighborhood, all across this country. How many suspected terrorists have already evaded authorities and are here, right here on U.S. soil in our country? Sadly, Biden's border destruction isn't just ushering in more human trafficking, more drugs, and more strains on local resources. It's also an open invitation for even suspected terrorists to waltz right into America and threaten our safety and security. Remember, border security is national security. And as bad as you already knew it was, somehow it's way worse. So while Biden's DHS may be touting a short pause in the number of migrants swarming over the border, the chaos on the ground is still as severe as ever. Just look at this video from Congressman Tony Gonzalez showing major overcrowding in a Border Patrol processing center in El Paso. Take a look. Does that look like a crisis that's anywhere close to being under control? Does that look like a system working to benefit Americans right here at home? And don't forget, even when illegal immigrants are apprehended and processed, they're often released into the interior of our country with no certainty they'll ever show up for their actual court date, which is likely years away anyway. There's no accountability. According to a report from the Washington Examiner, which reviewed the illegal migrants' DHS forms, the notices to appear in court go as far out as 2033. How many presidential elections is that? A court date in 10 years is basically just an invitation, a free pass to come into the country, and shows the complete and total lack of immigration enforcement. And under Biden, every state is now a border state. In upstate New York, outrage is growing after 20 homeless veterans were reportedly evicted from a shelter to make room for the influx of migrants. And on the south side of Chicago, residents there are fed up over a plan to house illegals in a former high school in the city's South Shore neighborhood. Accordingly, that city is now arguing that putting the interests of migrants above struggling city residents is totally improper. Watch.
Sources that have not come to us, now you want to overly compensate for people who never lived here before, and we need to be taken care of first and foremost before anything else happens here.
Why would any leader put our black communities already riddled with crime at further risk by placing unvetted non-taxpayers steps away from our seniors, our children, and our homes we've worked so hard on our own to secure?
We are at war, people. Our communities are at war. They are violating our communities, and we asking that we across the country, and we asking and we're demanding for office of Black America, or whatever you want to call it, to deal with issues like this.
That's right.
These are real communities in crisis in our country. But have you heard Biden say much of anything about it? While suspected terrorists are coming across the border, local resources are being strained and overwhelmed as Biden retreats to the same tired politics of division and ignores the issues that matter most and affect Americans. Because Biden is actually claiming that it's, quote, white supremacy that's the biggest threat facing the country, and just another sickening new low for this imploding president. Watch.
Against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go.
Now, that type of rhetoric is truly sick, and it's disgusting, and it's divisive. What has been going on in this country under President Biden? What has he actually done to actually help communities struggling with crime, with stagnant wages, with failing schools? Can you name one thing Joe Biden has done to actually improve the quality of life for working families? Literally, just one thing? Instead of crafting actual solutions to real problems, Biden is spewing the same racial fear-mongering over and over again, and it deserves to be condemned in the strongest possible terms. It's just one of the many reasons why Joe Biden has no business being anywhere near the White House after 2024, and why the stakes have never been higher. Join me now for a reaction to all of this, author of Why I Couldn't Stay Silent, One Man's Battle as a Black Conservative, host of the David Harris Jr. Show podcast, America First superstar, David Harris Jr. joins us. Thank you so much for being part of the program today.
Absolutely, Kimberly. Love your show, and thank you for having me on today.
Thank you. God bless you and your family. Well, I want to get your reaction to the news that John Durham, just right off the top, has completed his probe into the Trump-Russia hoax. And we've known for a long time the FBI investigation was based on the lies of the Steele dossier. But many are still wondering, where is the actual accountability and criminal charges? How do you see it?
Well, that's exactly what I want to know, and that's what most, I think, patriots, most Americans want to know. I mean, remember this entire debacle, this lie, this scheme, this conspiracy. These people conspired to work and move against President Donald J. Trump to try to keep him out of office and literally try to hold him accountable for being a Russian spy or in bed with Putin. I mean, it's disgraceful. It's treasonous. And yet, where's the accountability? We know it's all going to come to nothing because every single thing that they've thrown at President Donald J. Trump has always come to nothing. It's always been political theater. It's been for the optics. It's been to try to sway the sheep that are still watching MSNBC, CNN, ABC, or even Fox some days. It's all to try to persuade them to maybe just think, you know what, maybe President Trump's not good for America. But that's the absolute opposite. So I hope that there is accountability. I doubt we'll see it underneath this current DOJ. Look at how they're handling everything else that has to do with what the Biden family is being investigated for and what's being exposed. So I don't know that we're going to see it until we get new leadership in office. And hey, they're the ones that have set the stage going after former presidents for things that they supposedly did. President Trump is innocent, but they set the precedent. So when Joe Biden is out, him and his entire family and everybody in the DOJ, any part of the Justice Department, anybody that's been complicit in treasonous behavior against the United States of America, better know justice is coming.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Justice delayed is not justice denied, as we're fond of saying as prosecutors. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit here, too, because now, meanwhile, Joe Biden is claiming, as you saw in the previous clip, that white supremacy is the biggest terror threat. Now, when you look at all of the crises facing the country and in communities that are struggling, how do you react to that kind of commentary?
Well, I got to keep it G-rated, but what wants to come out of my mouth is something, expletives that just put the man in his place. He is the racist. He is the person that was friends with Byrd, the former KKK grandmaster or whatever. He is the person that pushed for segregation and against busing black students in. He is the one that talked about he didn't want our schools to be racial jungles, talking about integrating black kids and white kids. He is the definition of a racist. So for him to then turn around and try to say that racism is the biggest threat, you know what? In all facts and actualities, it is, because it's Joe Biden. He's the racist. He's the white supremacist. That is the most dangerous thing to happen to our country. And the last 2 years exposes that. As far as the actual supposed white supremacy that's out there, I still have yet to run into anybody, anywhere, that is threatening me or my life or my way of life because of the color of my skin. And I've been on this earth almost 50 years, if you can believe it, 47, but it doesn't exist. So he is literally just trying to continue to stoke the fires of what he believed created the division that enabled him to get black folks to just kowtow to voting for the Democrats. But so many, I got to say, so many, even of my own family, the black side of my family, so many of them have woken up over the last 2 years. Family members of mine that cut me off, that wrote me off, that talked trash about me because of my supporting President Donald J. Trump back from 2015, 16 and on up. Yeah. Many of them have changed their tune and they're reaching out to me. So people are waking up, and that is an amazing thing to see.
It really is. And it's just so offensive. Joe Biden thinks that he can speak for you or speak for other minorities like myself. It's reprehensible because all he is doing is stoking division and unrest in communities across this country with his rhetoric like that. Nevertheless, at a commencement speech, and I didn't even see everyone clapping for him, by the way, when he made that statement. And to follow up on this, quite frankly, it's what we see from Democrats, right? Every election cycle, they try to fuel racial division and use it as a political distraction from actually helping these struggling communities. They are hurting them instead.
Yeah, they absolutely do. It's just like, take Gavin Mussolini, I like to call him, one of the most progressive Democrats that there are out there today. He's the one that brought up in 2020 reparations for black Americans in California, for black citizens of California. He did that. And then when it comes down to, hey, this is going to cost $800 billion, whatever, twice the state's national annual budget, he's like, no, we're not going to do that. That's all they know how to do. That's all Democrats know how to do, is pander to minorities, to black individuals, to just try to get their votes. and it's waking people up. It's waking people up because the state of black communities, brown communities, minority communities, inner cities, everything that the Democrats have pushed for, defunding the police. Let's put some security officers or some workers, other workers in there that aren't police, that aren't going to carry a gun and do anything. Let's put them in there to try to help the community. Well, guess what? Criminals love that.
Right.
Criminals love gun-free zones. They love that there's less
Soft
police
targets,
out there.
yep.
Because criminals are going to be criminals. They're going to do it. And if there's no resistance, then they're just going to do more of it. And those specifically are the policies that continue to put minority communities in a much worse state year after year after year. And it's every blue state out there. It doesn't matter. Every blue state, you'll see the exact same thing.
It's so true, and they're
It's worse for
suffering
minority communities.
so much, in these minority communities, in these blue states, and these, blue communities controlled by Democratic mayors, etc. They're not serving anyone but themselves. It's a really empty, fake, destructive rhetoric, what's going on here. But I loved the clip where we saw people in the community standing up saying, hey, enough is enough. We don't want this. I mean, there is a legal process by which, because we are a nation, obviously based on immigrants and people coming in, but legally, the right way, not burdening already overstretched communities that have problems with, school. They need to have, school choice. They need to have better communities that are safe, public safety, jobs, manufacturing, infrastructure, and instead you're dumping them on these communities that are already struggling, which I find to be very sad and very distressing. And I see this chaos at the border as well. I mean, it just really looks like more than incompetence at this point, quite frankly. It seems very deliberate to me. How do you view the real agenda behind the border crisis?
Well, I think you just nailed it on the head, Kimberly. It is 100% deliberate. No global powers, the global elites that would love the destruction of America. You have to understand, your audience has to understand, America is the last beacon of hope in the world. In the world. As America goes, so goes the rest of the world. If they can strip the fabric of freedom, the foundational freedoms that our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence give us and grant us, if they can get America off of that, then they can take over. So what they've done, what Joe Biden is doing, what Kamala Harris, the supposed czar of the border, has done, it has to be intentional. While Mayorkas goes out and says, oh, we've closed the border, things are slowing down, it's the complete opposite. They are just lying to the people, trying to allow as many illegals to get into the country as possible. Then they want to allow them to vote. They're going to put a strain on the education system, our hospital system. They're going to give them driver's licenses. They're giving them cell phones. They're kicking veterans out and putting illegals in. They are choosing these illegals because they believe that it is their pathway for complete control and domination for the Democrats for decades to come.
You're 1,000% right. This is all about elections. It's very blatant and obvious, election interference aimed at future elections, and they're doing it left, right, and center because I guess they can only mess with enough, ballot harvesting and voting machines and all the rest of it. It's just crazy, and that's why we got to be prepared for 2024. But we see this push, from the left to undermine safety and security across our communities, demonizing police. The hard men and women that work in blue every day, that try to put it on the line to keep community safe so kids can walk home from school and get a good education and parents can make it to work and come home at night. We see the Democrats and Biden opening up the border. They're normalizing crime like it's an everyday aspect of life that we should become accustomed to, that is acceptable. Can America even survive, quite frankly, 6 more years under the Biden administration, given the enormity and depth to which we've seen a decline just in the past 2 years?
No, it's scary. It's a scary thought to think that Joe or any Democrat could win in 2024. 6 years, I don't think our country would be recognizable at the end of 6 years. We've got to get him out in 2024. We've got to get President Donald J. Trump back in office so that he continue what he started. He was making our country greater than it had been in decades. Obviously, without a doubt, the greatest president of anybody alive today's lifetime. And I don't care if they're 100 years old. Greatest president. He now knows more than ever who he can trust, who he can't, who's part of the swamp. He's seen the ins and outs of it. He was effective his first 4 years, extremely effective. He would be so much more effective his last 4 years. to get another 4 years to truly begin to right the wrongs of this administration. So God forbid, I'm praying for a miracle if that's what it takes. And I do believe that God is in this with us. I believe he elected, he chose and selected President Donald J. Trump to lead this country away from absolute disaster of communism, where the left would love to take us. And he's not done with President Donald J. Trump. And there's too many people that believe that, as I do, and are praying for him, for, I believe, of Joe Biden or any Democrat to get in office in 2024. We need President Donald J. Trump to finish what he started, and I believe that he absolutely will if he's given the chance.
You know, I absolutely agree with you too, but keeping that in mind, what should be the top policy priorities for Republicans so that we can achieve that goal? I mean, you're a major influencer on social media across the board. How can the actual America First MAGA movement continue to reach more voters, David? Because it's not just, okay, get the 75 million that they admitted that Trump had last time. It's getting 15 more million voters to put it over the top, to overcome any cheating, to make sure that we reach out to independents and libertarians or moderates or people that say it's enough is enough. Like, to reach people, like you said, in your family that at first were like, well, let's see what happens. And then now you've seen them come around.
Well, we have to, every single one of us that is awake to what is taking place, we have to be bold every single day to be able to ask the questions. You know, one of the reasons why I make the merch that I do, these shirts,
yes,
they're
like
not after
that
me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. President Trump has said this. I make shirts intentionally to give people an opportunity to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Just this last week, I was at a business, and maybe 45, 55-year-old woman, a Caucasian lady, she saw me wearing this shirt and she said, you don't support Trump, do you? It was an opening for a conversation. I welcome all those conversations. I mean, maybe it's because, if you don't vote for Biden, you're not black. But she said, you don't vote for Trump. You don't support Trump, do you? And I then begin to educate her on exactly why I support him, why I have supported him, and how you cannot trust the mainstream media. So you have to be a walking staple. Again, you find shirts like this at lovethatmerch.com. Lovethatmerch.com. We just got this up there. It's $20.
That's a good one. I like it.
It's $20.24, Kimberly, because we've got to take our country back in 2024. So whether it's a shirt, whether it's just talking to friends, we have to be bold enough to be a voice everywhere we go. And if we as a country do that, if 75 million people do that, we're going to gain an extra 10 or 20 million people easily by allowing people to understand that they can't trust the propaganda of the mainstream media, and they've got to focus on the issues and the policies. And President Donald J. Trump is all about policies. DonaldTrump.com, DonaldJTrump.com has his entire policies laid out, exactly what he would do, how he would do it. Those videos are amazing. And that gives everybody an opportunity to see exactly where he stands on policies. Never seen anything like that before from a presidential candidate.
And I really think he is, like you said, building the momentum, as we say, as Americans lose confidence in Biden. And I see you wear your shirts and stuff too. I like the pictures on the internet when you're on airplanes, everything. So you're trying to, get that dialogue going and light that fire to inspire people to have a discussion. So I think that's really important. It's a freedom of speech and a means of expression that helps us talk to one another and helps bridge gaps where otherwise somebody may be surprised. Oh, wow, this nice man is supporting and likes President Trump. I wonder why. What is it about him that, he's inspired and following this person as a candidate? Because there's something still that it says to me, like, because they pander and they take the African American, the black vote for, granted, just like they take our Latino vote for granted. As a proud Puerto Rican woman, I've always been a registered Republican and a conservative. Even when I was at UC Davis, that's not that easy. When I was married to who, what'd you call him? Mussolini.
Mussolini.
That's pretty funny, by the way. But I get out there and I tell all the Latinas, everybody I know in the Hispanic community, you got to support President Trump. He supports our values, hardworking and traditional, and believe in Christ as our Savior. But still, how do we reconcile this? David, how are they still able to get over 90% of the black vote? I mean, is it something like structural? Is it messaging? Is it organizational? Like, how do you see it, and how do we fix it?
Well, it's not going to happen overnight, Kimberly. I think that while for the last probably 60 years, it's been about 90% of the vote of the black community has gone to a Democrat. I believe in 2000 In 2016, I think it might have been a little bit less. It might have been still around 10% went for a Republican or for Donald Trump. But I believe that it was probably closer to 15 or 16% that went to President Donald J. Trump in 2020. I think that number is going to be even greater in 2024 because it's going to take individuals like you and me, the minorities, to not be quiet, to not be afraid, to be bold, to put ourselves out there, and to know the facts. I mean, I love it when any person of color wants to grill me on President Trump or call him a racist. I just bring up HBCUs. It's funny that Joe Biden said he had to say the black HBC. I'm at a black HBCU. Well, you're saying you're at a black, historical black college university? So he doesn't even know where he's at.
He doesn't even know.
No, HBCU is predominantly black and brown people. But when President Trump found out that HBCUs had to go beg the government every single year for funding, he said, well, we're going to finish that. We're going to fix that. He promised more funding annually than Obama ever gave and locked it in for 10 years. That's what he thought and what he did for the black community. His platinum plan that he was going to do with opportunity zones around the country, that was going to be amazing. Black and brown communities, minority communities would have seen so much potential, so much growth, and so much opportunity. And now we got Joe Biden. And I've seen like never before so many black and brown people, especially black folks, that are just like, you know what? I don't care what my mama said, what my auntie said, what my grandparents said, or whatever. And actually, most grandparents were conservatives.
Right.
But it's that generation from the 60s forward that everything switched, which is a whole other story with Barry Goldwater. But the black community is seeing the detriment of Joe Biden and a Democrat ran state or country, and they're appreciating Donald J. Trump every more. So we just got to be bold and be out there, be welcoming, and liberal rhymes with miserable. And the last thing I am is miserable about anything.
That's what I was saying, like Les Mis. These miserable liberals. All right, so let me talk to you about 2024. So I know you saw the CNN town hall last week, and it seemed pretty clear to absolutely obvious that Donald Trump is clearly the nominee for this primary going forward. How do you see it? What do you say to the people out there that are still trying to support someone else?
Well, hey, listen to Anderson Cooper. I mean, are you kidding me? From Anderson Cooper's own mouth to God's ears and my ears, Anderson Cooper says, hey, Donald J. Trump is obviously the front runner. Nobody else is going to come close to him. It's like, if you don't take my word for it, listen to if Anderson Cooper means something to you, because you still watch MSNBC.
That was good. I
CNN
posted
Kool-Aid,
that,
It's like, hey, he said it. The town hall was filled with, they said 50%. I don't know how CNN didn't pack that crowd with people that they thought would heckle President Donald J. Trump. And maybe they shared something that made CNN believe that they would give him a hard time, or that they were diehard Democrats. But that crowd, by the end of what President Trump had to say, every single question, every single answer that he was given, when that horrible Caitlyn, President
Collins,
Trump was after, she's just a horrible person, when she kept cutting him off and trying to push him into answering a specific question a specific way so she could attack him. He danced around it. I mean, he was like Fred Astaire. He was just dancing around exactly what. No, you're not going to get me to
Fred
do that.
Astaire and Muhammad Ali.
Oh yeah, he's like Muhammad. He's just grooving. He's like, no, you're not going to back me into that corner and then jab with the truth.
Oh
jab
my
with
God.
the truth.
He was
People
playing
saw
rope-a-dope.
He was just like, and she was getting duped and dopey. By the end, she was just like, I'm done. She had to call it quits early.
I mean,
So
like 20 minutes early. They called it. It's like when you run up the score in Little League. They're like, enough see here, folks. Time to go home and, have your little sippy cup. Like, I mean, come on now. I don't know. But, let's see. Hey, I think as a party, Dave, that we really need to come together, not waste time and money in this primary and focus on the general election. There's valuable resources, time we need to make sure that we beat Joe Biden, because it is pretty obvious to everyone, including the Democrats, including CNN, including MSNBC. I even saw that clip from Rick Wilson freaking out because he's like, it's obvious. This guy's going to be the one. They're having a meltdown, which is also very fun to watch. But I mean, what do you say to those people out there, the DeSantis's, the potentially the Pompeos, the Rick Scotts, the Tim Scotts, the Nikki Haley's, the Mike Pence's? I don't know if I left anyone out. I don't know.
Face the facts. President Donald J. Trump is the front runner. That's not going to change. We're not saying that all those other people are bad. I've got some personal, reasons why some of them I hold certain things, in certain lights. But that's not the point. We don't have to be love Trump and hate DeSantis. That's not it either. But I don't think DeSantis wants to go. He shouldn't even want to go up against Trump.
No, he's going to get hurt.
Be Florida governor if it wasn't for President Donald Trump. I wish I would have saw some more allegiance there. But
and
I'm still not going to just
he could run in
DeSantis.
2028, but not if he's so wounded with like shrapnel in the leg from Trump, which you can't go up against this guy and think that this is going to be an easy stroke. It's not.
No, it's not. So Americans, Republicans, conservatives, independents, or Democrats that are just fed up with how our country is going down the toilet, being invaded hourly by tens of thousands of individuals, how many of which we have no idea want to actually do ill intent or just won't assimilate. They'll bring their lifestyle, their way of life, and doing things here, which is going to be very chaotic and disruptive. We need to back the individual that has the best chance. We need to unify and come together and say, I don't care. President Donald J. Trump has the best chance to win this thing, and we need to all support him in every possible way that we can.
No, I agree. And I love that. Face the facts. So, yeah, face the facts. David Harris Jr. is the best. I'm so happy you came on the show. We can't wait to have you back on again. Check out his podcast. Check out his merch. And he's across social media. Give a plug for yourself, sweetheart.
David J. Harris Jr. on all my social media platforms. Podcast also, David J. Harris Jr. And then my merch, all my shop, lovethatmerch.com. They're not after me. They're after you. I'm in the way, but he's going to stay in the way, and he's going to save the day. I believe that 110% with all my heart.
I do too. God bless you and your incredible family. You're a total fighter and a warrior. We love you, and you represent the movement so
Thank you so
well.
much.
All right.
Thank you so much,
putting
Kimberly.
this out on the internet with lots of good clips. David, so we'll have you put it out there as well. Be sure to like and subscribe down below if you enjoyed having David J. Harris Jr. on, so you never miss an episode of the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show. And we have much more to come, including big news out of Arizona and the election dirty tricks Democrats don't want you to know about, but we're going to tell you. Rising Republican superstar, Attorney General candidate Abe Hamadeh will be here with big breaking developments about his case coming up tomorrow. But first, I want to make sure that I thank our brave sponsors who make this show possible. Sponsors like Patriot Mobile. With Patriot Mobile, you put America first with every call, all while getting the same nationwide coverage as major carriers. Not only does Patriot Mobile provide you dependable wireless service at an affordable price, they also share your values and they actually support you. Patriot Mobile puts their dollars into action, donating a portion of every dollar to support groups that fight for the First Amendment, the sanctity of life, and protecting our brave police and first responders. Support companies who support you. Vote with your dollars and vote to support Patriot Mobile. For free activation, go to patriotmobile.com/Kimberly. Again, for free activation, that's patriotmobile.com/Kimberly. And I also want to bring you a special message from Patriot Lifestyle, where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different benefits, from non-insurance healthcare benefits to savings on travel, identity theft, legal services, and even pet care. Take a look. Kimberly Guilfoyle. We've commissioned a lifestyle benefit program for our America First Patriots, Patriot Lifestyle. This program includes identity theft protection. And as a former prosecutor, I know that identity theft is the fastest growing crime in America. You also have free and discounted legal services, roadside assistance, travel discounts, cashback rewards while shopping on the internet, and our newest service, Pet Assure. Right, Mario and Luigi? Where you receive discounts at veterinarians across the country and pet supply stores. Patriot Lifestyle covers you, your family, and your furry friends for less than $1 a day. Follow the link and please sign up to get your Patriot Lifestyle started. And stay tuned for even more major updates on all the Patriot Lifestyle programs. It's an extraordinary value and will totally improve your life. Now turning to another major developing story out of Arizona, where evidence is growing of dirty tricks in last November's Arizona Attorney General race between Democrat Chris Mays and Republican Abe Hamadeh. Now remember, Abe was only down literally 280 votes when Mays was certified as the winner following a recount and a discovery of uncounted votes. But that turned out to be just the beginning of the story, because there are still literally thousands of provisional ballots across Maricopa County that election officials are still hiding information about, amid evidence that some votes may have been erroneously rejected. And that's not all. Over 30% of voting machines malfunctioned in Maricopa County on Election Day, while Maricopa also refused to extend voting hours. And according to Abe's campaign, a ballot has 15 times more likely to be rejected if voted on Election Day in Maricopa compared to a mail-in ballot. Think about that. And it wasn't just in Maricopa County, because as a major investigation from the nonprofit watchdog VoteBeat found, the Pinal County elections chief had proof of major voting counting errors that she did not flag before the county supervisors certified the November election results. These are just the facts, folks. Now tomorrow, we have Abe Hamadeh's legal team. They will be in court to argue for a new trial, and all of this explosive evidence in what's starting to look more and more like a major cover-up. Joining us right now, a wonderful America First patriot and veteran and a great friend, Abe Hamadeh. Thank you so much for being here, and also happy birthday.
Thank you, Kimberly. Great to be on with you.
I think I know what you want for your present tomorrow.
Right? Absolutely. I think a lot of Arizonans want it as well.
They absolutely do. And you deserve to be, and you are the rightful Attorney General. And I'm praying for that to happen. But let's go through the facts on this, because I think it's very inspirational how you and Kari Lake never gave up fighting. And I think this is so emblematic and important in terms of how it represents what's going on with election interference across this country. It affects the presidential race as well, and what happened there in Arizona, as we all recall. But so first of all, this looks like one of the strongest cases that we have seen in the country regarding clear violations of election protocol. Tell us about what went on in Arizona and what your team will be arguing in court tomorrow.
Well, thank you. And you summarized it really well, all the election disaster problems that occurred back in November. But the cover-up is always worse than the crime, Kimberly. And that's what we're witnessing right now. I mean, back in November and December, after the election, what we witnessed was so horrific to see what the government did. I mean, they rushed through this election contest trial. They withheld evidence from my team. But you're right, we're down 280 votes out of 2.5 million. This is the closest race in Arizona history. But before that 280 vote differential, it was actually 511 votes before the recount. And you're right, it's what happened in Pinal County. They discovered uncounted ballots. The elections director who ran the elections actually ran off with the $25,000 bonus and left the state to Texas, made them certify that election. So, that was just one aspect. And then you look at Maricopa County's election day failures of the printer malfunctions. All of this is coupled into one big disaster. And, I see this, everybody keeps asking me, how are you holding up, Abe? I feel as if this is the biggest honor of my life, fighting this fight, because if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? This is the prime opportunity to take a microscopic approach to elections. And the government is really scared, because what we're discovering is mismanagement and maladministration across many different counties. But the crux of our lawsuit, which is a lot different than others, is we actually have the votes, and they just need to be opened and counted. And that's what's a little bit different with our case. So, we feel very optimistic heading into court tomorrow. It's long awaited. We're back at the first step. We're just asking for a new trial. We haven't gone to the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals or anything like that. We're back to square one, because the new trial this withheld evidence would have changed the outcome. And our legal team is very confident about that.
They should grant that, absolutely. All right, so here's what's frustrating to me as a journalist. I'm so glad we're able to talk about it on this program. That's why John Jr. and I are here on Rumble, because we can cover the news and the facts and the evidence and actually that should be highlighted in the mainstream media. How is, your level of frustration by the fact that the mainstream media has not covered this? This should be something, in my opinion, that is at the top of the news story, in every Arizona paper, let alone nationally, because of the impact that it could have.
Well, their silence is deafening, Kimberly. I remember the Washington Post editorial board on December 31st, when the recount results came and it showed us defeated, they were jubilant, saying Abe Hamadeh's defeat shows the end of election denialism, right? And the mainstream media here in Arizona, what's interesting is my opponent, Chris Mays, who's sitting in that office right now. She used to be a former journalist for the top newspaper out here, so she's friends with all the journalists. So they're hoping that this just goes away. But even that nonprofit news organization website that you highlighted with the Pinal County issues, VoteBeat, that is a leftist organization. Right. So for them to actually show, and that was just published last week, and for them to actually show some interest in what happened in Pinal County shows you that people know that there was a major problem, not just in Pinal County, but all across the state. But the mainstream media, I'm not too concerned, because as you know, Kimberly, being a lawyer, it's the judges, they're not going to be swayed by a 25-year-old reporter who's a leftist, right? So I think just the fact that they're ignoring it, that's fine. I think we're going to be in court, and soon enough, they're not going to ignore the evidence, because we have the votes, and once the judge counts them, I think we're going to make history. Yeah,
I think it's going to be extremely important. I mean, this could change not only your election for AG, but the governor's race for Kari Lake. It impacts, the presidential election with President Trump. But shed some more light for me, will you, on these provisional ballots? What do we know about them?
Absolutely. And why I'm so confident we will prevail, Kimberly, is because 2022 is unlike any race in history. And I say that cautiously, right? There's been close elections throughout, elections contests, but what was so unusual in November was that it was so overwhelmingly Republicans that came out to vote. So on election day, I was winning the election day vote by 70% across the state.
I remember, I was watching it all. It's unbelievable.
Right. So, and as you can imagine, there's 9,000 uncounted provisional ballots, and let's just say 1,000 of them should be counted, which we believe that there are a lot of those ballots that should be counted. I mean, that swings the election completely. But what we noticed, Kimberly, is really fascinating. We're using Mark Elias's playbook. Mark Elias, the Democrat super attorney. He's actually going to be in federal court tomorrow, the same time we're going to be up in Superior Court in Mojave County. And he's basically arguing the same thing. So it's kind of putting them in an awkward position, because we've kind of stolen the Democrat playbook, which is that there is thousands of disenfranchised voters who had the registrations erroneously canceled, and they are overwhelmingly Republican. And once these votes are counted, we will prevail. But, we feel really confident going into it. With 9,000 uncounted ballots, imagine if the court, decided to count every single one of them because of how badly administered the election was.
How could that break for you?
Oh, I think we would win by 2,000 or 3,000 votes, and it would be historic. So we feel very optimistic. And Arizona's constitution, just so your viewers know, is we've actually removed a statewide office holder before. We removed the governor.
Yes, there is a very important point, Abe, because there is precedence for this. To remove an elected official if, in fact, evidence is determined subsequently that they did not, in fact, lawfully or rightly win the election.
That's exactly right. And, that's unusual. Other states believe in the finality of the results. Arizona, with our Wild West nature, we've actually removed a governor. We removed a supervisor. So this is the law in Arizona. It's our precedent. All election contests hinges on that. Our Constitution demands that the person who received the most votes is the office holder. So that's why we are so confident in our election lawsuit.
Okay. And talk about Governor Katie Hobbs, whose behavior really has been reprehensible during all of this. She even threatened to arrest election officials. What's your reaction?
Well, it shows that she should have never ran that election, and she had skin in the game, because apparently that Pinal County report where they were noticing that there was widespread issues with their results, they actually notified the Secretary of State's office on December 7th, apparently, which was 2 weeks prior to our election lawsuit back in December of 23rd. And she withheld this information from us and from the court. And Kimberly, you're a former prosecutor.
Yes.
I mean, if I did this as a prosecutor, this is exculpatory evidence. I mean, how could they not disclose this? And that's what shows you that this was a cover up. And I think the judge is going to be offended by what they did. Can you imagine that you have this information that possibly there's widespread issues going on in a county with the vote totals, and you're not going to report it to the judge or the opposing counsel? So, and she was threatening to lock up election officials in Cochise County and Mojave County. It's no wonder why that these people in Pinal County were fearful to report this to Secretary of State.
Out of control, unrelenting, dictator. I mean, she's like making Kim Jong-un look shy. I mean, quite frankly, so we don't like her either. She's got to go. So she's not the lawful governor of that state. The whole thing is outrageous what's gone on. This is why it's so important we have someone like yourself that is a true fighter for justice and law and order. When we see what's going on, I want to switch gears on this for a second about the border, what's going on with Biden. This crisis is out of control. When you become Attorney General, what would you be doing to handle issues like the Biden border disaster and some of these other major national issues that are really affecting our country? You see the open border crisis affecting national security, really plaguing, the school systems, hospitals, medical care, and fentanyl pouring in, poisoning Americans and taking lives.
Well, you just described I got a lot of work to do when I'm Attorney General, and it's I'm hoping Kari Lake is able to prevail as well, because it's an uphill battle going up against a lawless governor.
She'd be a great partner
too.
with you.
Exactly, and we were on the campaign trail, but you're seeing what's going. This is a culture of lawlessness, and I keep describing to people right now, laws are meaningless when you have criminals running the government. Sure. So when you have this border that's completely open and the government tries to gaslight us, the governor here, tries to act like she's doing something, but no, she's a puppet of Biden. And now you're witnessing all across the country. Look at New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, but even in New York, where you have this Marine Good Samaritan who is being perp walked, Kimberly. I mean, this is, as a prosecutor, I'm so offended of what's happening. I mean, right now, prosecutors are becoming the criminal defense attorneys, it appears to be. So this is what is so frightening. And as Attorney General, I think what we have to do is restore law and order, get back to the basics of what makes this country great. And to be honest, Kimberly, the rule of law is everything in our country. And why the left has corrupted it so viciously is really undermined every aspect of our lives. And that's why what we're witnessing right now is a total erosion of confidence in our government.
You're absolutely right. I mean, how confident as you sit here tonight, do you feel that your motion for a new trial, will be granted? And what do you want the American people to understand truly about what happened to Arizona
Absolutely.
On Election Day in 2022?
I can't imagine a scenario where we're not granted a new trial, Kimberly. I mean, if that's the case, it would be really a jaded experience for me, because it would basically incentivize the government officials to withhold evidence during an election contest. So I can't imagine us not getting a new trial. So I think our chances of being granted a new trial is probably over 90%.
Good.
And once we're given a new trial, I do believe that we will prevail, because, again, all we're asking, these provisional ballots are sitting in a corner. They're sealed in an envelope. We're just asking them to open them up and count them and let democracy win.
Sure.
It's really interesting right now, because they attacked me and Kari, saying that we were the biggest threats to democracy. And here I am fighting for democracy. I'm fighting for the rights of voters. And we've met with so many of these people who have their vote denied, and some of them are combat veterans. They've been voting for 30 plus years, and it's going to be awful to see, but hopefully we're able to restore some sanity, Kimberly.
Absolutely. Now, you are truly seen as one of the biggest, rising stars in the Republican Party. What's your reaction when you hear Biden claiming in that commencement speech that white supremacy is the biggest threat facing the country?
When I'm in the Army, so I was in Saudi Arabia, deployed a few years ago when Biden took office. And I remember Secretary Austin at the time issued a memo and a training objective that we all had to get trained on white supremacy and right-wing views. And so it doesn't surprise me that this administration is making this to be an issue when it's clearly not. And the media came after me saying that I was espousing white supremacist views, and here I am, the son of Syrian immigrants, Kimberly, and I know you're Puerto Rican.
Exactly.
Here we are. We're just patriots, and when they have nothing to go against us, all they're going to do is attack us and try to attack our character. But I always put a smile on my face because I know that they are completely void of any substantive policy issues. So Biden and this corrupt government and the bureaucracy, what we're witnessing with the Durham report, for instance, I mean, it is completely lawless. And we need to restore sanity quickly because this country is falling so rapidly. And it's something I've never seen before. When I announced my campaign, today's my birthday. I just turned 32 years old. And, I think that they're going to have to put up with me for a long time because I intend to save our country.
Absolutely. And just if people want to support your cause and what's going on with the legal case, etc., where can they learn more? How can they support?
Absolutely. They can go to countthevotesaz.com, countthevotesaz.com. I'm also really active on Twitter at Abraham Hamadeh.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're going to be checking in tomorrow, seeing what happens, praying about it, and just making sure that we see justice here and hope that you win your case, for a new trial. That'll be fantastic. And we'll be following all of this. All right. Thank you so much for being on the program. I appreciate your mission to restore election integrity.
Thank you, Kimberly.
All right. We have a special walk-on guest. Pull up a chair here from Kari Lake's campaign because this is a big deal tomorrow in Arizona. So we're going to get her mic'd up for 1 second here because it really does have far-reaching implications. We are seeing what's going on here with Abe Hamadeh's case. We see that this can affect not only his case, but Kari Lake's case, because Kari Lake wants to be reinstated as governor of Arizona and believes that she too as well won that election, which also has a ripple effect to affect the presidential election as well. So joining us now, look up into the camera, Caroline Wren, who's with Kari Lake's campaign, and you ran all her finance and help with comms and all of the above. And introduce yourself to the people. She's the superstar from War Room with Steve Bannon.
Hello, yes, I've been working with Kari for almost a year now, and she's just incredible. And this is a huge week for Arizona election integrity. Abe has his case, and then so does Kari, in fact. We're waiting for a ruling right now from the judge to decide if they're going to do a retrial based off the signature verification that we brought to the Supreme Court. And so they had different hearings at the end of last week, and we actually should hear by 5 p.m., we're hoping, Arizona time today, on if that's going to move forward. And if it does, it'd be a trial starting on Wednesday. And they allow cameras in there, so we'll be able to live stream, and you get to watch another trial where we can put these people, on the witness stand and depose them for the crimes that they committed against this state.
Now, so Abe, the case that he has tomorrow, that can affect here because some of the allegations are obviously very disturbing. What transpired in Maricopa County, the provisional ballots, etc., Pinal County. Talk about that, I guess, the pathway forward for Kari Lake.
I guess the craziest part about this was not a crime that was committed in the dead of night. It was committed in front of all of our eyes. Those of us who were there on election day. I remember I called Abe, I was calling Blake Masters, Kari Lake, saying, what is going on? All of our people were calling us. They were waiting in line 4, 5, 6 hours to try and vote. People had to go on half-day odysseys to attempt to vote in Arizona. And it's because they sabotaged election day. They shut down 61% of the polling stations in Maricopa County were inoperable. And we found out through our first trial that was because they printed a 19-inch ballot on 20-inch paper. And Maricopa County put out a whole report saying it was essentially like why we did it is the book, and it said exactly like what had happened, and sorry, it was an accident. What the courts are saying that we have to be able to prove is that it wasn't incompetence, it was malice. And when it comes to Katie Hobbs, who was the Secretary of State overseeing this, it is a hard bar, that's a hard bar to prove because she is the most incompetent person that I have ever encountered. And on top of that, we believe it's also malice. And so that is a lot of what the trials have going on. But
self-dealing, because she was Secretary of State, so
yes.
She's supposed to oversee this. What she did was oversee stealing an election in Arizona.
Correct.
That she benefited from.
Correct. She oversaw the most incompetent election, then we think that was by design. And so this is going to be a huge week for both of us, but it's important to remember that we'll never be able to know and quantify exactly how many votes that they directed away. People have kids, they have to go to school, they have to go to their jobs. They cannot spend all day going to 4 different polling locations to vote. And we'll never fully be able to know what that is, but Abe Hamadeh is the rightful Attorney General, Kari Lake is the rightful governor, and these two fighters are going to keep fighting until every single shred of evidence is out there and these people can be held accountable for what they did.
Yeah, well, that'll be great. And where can people go to help support what Carrie is doing and fighting for this country?
Go to carrielake.com and also savearizonafund.com, and we'll be streaming the trial live there. And you can also read the different court cases that we put all of the different our filings on that page, so you can really read through and get a feeling for those cases.
For the evidence and the support.
Yeah.
All right, Caroline, we'll ask you to stay on. I'm going to conclude this program. We'll go on to locals. My closing remarks just ahead. But first, I want to thank another one of our brave sponsors, that's Goldco. Because gold and silver can protect your retirement savings from inflation and dollar devaluation. Look, we see all the economic warning signs. We see banks collapsing. We see reckless spending. And I want you to be ready. I'm ready. With Goldco, you can roll over your 401k or your IRA into precious metals and safeguard your savings tax and penalty free. From precious metals, IRAs to direct purchases of gold and silver, Goldco has helped thousands of Americans diversify and protect their retirement savings. So go to kimsmetals.com to learn more. That's kimsmetals.com. And in closing tonight, with one disaster after another, it's more obvious than ever that Joe Biden is not fit for office. Border security is national security. And this self-inflicted Biden border chaos is just a piece of the Democrats' larger scheme to destroy the fabric of our country. And as you've heard today, this is why free and fair elections matter more than ever. Americans can't afford Joe Biden. And they can't afford Democrats at the state or federal level who refuse to secure the country and the border and refuse to put America first. And as always, we are here to cover the latest on all of it right here on Rumble, where we reject the false narrative and always seek the truth. So be sure to like and subscribe to my channel at Kimberly Guilfoyle, and make sure to subscribe to Donald Trump Jr.'s channel right here on Rumble as well. Turn on notifications, download the Rumble app, hit the like button when you enjoy our shows, and tell all of your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And also be sure to follow me, please, across all platforms: Twitter, Truth Social, Facebook, and Instagram. Don is on all of those as well. And don't miss Don Jr.'s big show at 6 p.m. Eastern live tonight. You don't want to miss it. It's a matter of national security. And in the meantime, hop on over to locals at kimberly.locals.com for a live Q&A, and Caroline Wren, senior advisor and official with Kari Lake's campaign, will be joining us there as well. So get your questions ready. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you right here on Rumble on Thursday.